And joining me now from here in Washington is Harry Broadman, former Assistant U.S. Trade Representative and an international investment executive and global business strategist. Great having you. And do you think the Supreme Court just kneecapped the modern tariffs by decree methodology?
No, I think what the message is that the president and more importantly his trade team did not push back on him for his selection. I think of the particular statute he used, IEEPA, and there are other statutes as we now everybody in the United States has learned about different statutes. There were other statutes which he's probably now going to appeal to use. And those are the statutes he should have used in the first place. I suspect, obviously I was not in the White House this time, I suspect that when the USTR and Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary went over the kinds of statutes that could be used, Trump probably said, I like the word emergency in the title of the law. And that may well have been, what was used. I would be shocked if the USTR, those of us who work there are pretty professional in trade. He probably, my guess is probably was not crazy about using that statute, but who knows?
Interesting depiction there. We'll go back to this, but first I'd like to explore how does this announcement of a 10% tariff across the board looks like now?
Well, that really is the problem because what do we do with the cash that's already been spent? I was just listening to a business person speaking that he's not sure whether when he should go back to order more goods or not order more goods, what to do with the revenues that he's owed, and so we're in an era now of a fair amount of uncertainty. Now, uncertainty about economic policy and trade policy under the Trump regime has been a hallmark of that regime. So not much has changed in that regard. But this is a major monkey wrench in the works.
And you just brought up a point that I'd like to follow up on, because do you think we're about to see a refund brawl that may actually be worth up to $175 billion? And do refunds become like another corporate windfall? How is this going to play out?
No, I mean I think that is the really difficult question now, how to manage the situation. And I think, again, as a trade guy, I thought this was a very poor statute to use. And now they're going to get a taste of their own medicine. They got to figure out how to unwind the revenues that were paid in, make people whole again, or figure out some kind of Band-Aid solution so that we don't have this flow of funds problem and we continue to be able to trade with our trading partners. It's again, it's really a mess, and it shows very poor decision making on the part of Trump and his trade team, to be honest with you.
And Harry, a moment ago you brought up the emergency point, and you gave us an example of what could have happened in the White House, right? But was it ever credible to call trade deficits a national emergency? Was that a theater? Who comes up with such an idea?
Well, first of all, that's the name of the statute, right? It's the International Emergency Economic Act, and it's made for certain kinds of events and certain kinds of structures. This does not qualify as one. The statutes that he mentioned today, Section 301, 122, these are the kinds of statutes that any trade expert knows are much more relevant. So now they put all their eggs in this basket, to be honest, and now they got to figure out what eggs are broken, what are still whole, but more importantly, how to make consumers and firms, who paid in, can be made whole again. Or are they going to say, listen, we're going to put this in some kind of fund, that's earmarked, but let's not start going into that fund now. Let's continue to have the economy make trade transactions. That's not a very fun idea for investors, for workers, and for consumers to have everything be put on hold. And also the application of the new statutes that he's going to use, presumably, that's not going to just happen overnight, because you may have picked up, or our viewers may have seen, that there are steps required. In particular, investigations are needed. Justifications are needed as to why this particular statute or that particular statute is needed. And there has to be analysis of this. And if that analysis is shoddy, if it's done, overnight or in a very short period of time, and it doesn't have the quality, the Congress, who ultimately makes these laws, there's going to be a lot of feedback here that's not going to help things. So, frankly, Mr. Trump castigating the court about this situation, I understand. I've been in politics, but that really is not going to help. It's not going to help firms. It's not going to help consumers. It's not going to help workers. And our opposites over our opponents are going, okay, so now what do we do with the U.S.? And so,
Yeah.
this was really unwell, not thought out very well. And I think we're now going to, be in a real quagmire.
Harry, we've got viewers around the world. Many of them are concerned their businesses, their jobs are dependent on trading with the United States, right? IEEPA, this emergency status is off the table. Tariffs are going to be kept in place, or we believe that may be the policy. But can you give our viewers around the world a sense of which workarounds there may be? How would that look? How would that play out? Which signs they should be looking for in the next few days to try and plan their businesses and get a contingency plan up with their trade partners here?
It's that is question numero uno right now, and there's not a simple answer, and there's not one obvious answer. Do you put the funds in an escrow account and but allow the shipments to continue, or and not have workers laid off? For at least in my experience, and I've been doing this for almost 50 years, I've not seen anything quite like this. So there's not a lot of history from which we can tap into. I think already the economy has begun to slow down in the last quarter. Of 2025, the new numbers show we went down from 4.5% to 4.1% GDP growth. This is now going to only slow things down further, I predict. And until there's certainty, and as you say, as we're discussing, a mechanism that can be understood by firms, by consumers, by investors, and by our trading partners. So this can't be something that's hidden in a black box, because we need transparency now about what are the next steps. We can't have these funds frozen. So it's really quite something. And I'm glad I'm not in the White House now, having a president like this who says, okay, now you figure this out. It's really going to gum up the works, and not just of the U.S. economy, but the global economy. So I think we're not only in uncharted territory. I think we're in for even more economic uncertainty, potentially more of an economic slowdown, at least in the United States.
Harry Broadman, great having you. Thank you.